Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. Yes. I think I'm loud enough, inshallah.
That will work.
Yeah, it'll work. So we'll speak, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Listur. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome to you. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. If you think you are going to sit down to listen to a scholar, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, because I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. I'm just a simple man who lives on a farm in upstate New York in a place called the Osmanlı Dergah. We are following the Naqshbandi Tariqat, and I've been studying under my sheikh for a few years. Ours is a way. Tariqat means way. Shariat means way. And our way is a way that has been handed down for 1400 years, since the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an, who received some knowledge from the Holy Prophet ﷺ to teach those who want to learn, not to teach those who don't want to learn. So, that being said, if there are those who don't want to learn, we are not going to force you. Because what we are asking for right now is the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His holy beloved one, Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam, rahmatan lil alameen, for whose reason we are gathered here, celebrating the Mawlid, his birth, or his physical appearances here in this world. And I'm sorry, I came a little bit late. Otherwise, I would have sat there listening to the scholars who spoke here before to learn something. But like I said, I'm not a scholar. I'm a simple person. I'm not claiming to know anything. I learned some things from our Shaykh, and when the permission and the way is open for us to come to visit, we come and we visit. Ours is the first one, as long as I know, as much as I know, that is making a grand tour across country, from the East Coast, inshallah, we're going all the way to the West Coast, celebrating the Mawlid of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and bringing the Sakal Sharif, the Muay Mubarak, hoping for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be bestowed to us. Hoping, inshallah, this nation and this continent, the believers will wake up. Believers, not just Muslims or Jews or Christians, believers. Because there are believers and there are unbelievers in every group and in every religion. And there are true, sincere ones, and there are munafiqs in every religion and in every group. May Allah save us from being a hypocrite. So, we came here from the mountains of the Catskills, where right now, as we are speaking, it's probably about 7 degrees, and there's snow everywhere. And we're coming here, alhamdulillah, in Arizona, and the temperature is 70 degrees. And just as we pulled up, the rain started falling, a little bit. I'm sure some of you, if you're aware, you've seen rain being rahmat. And the rahmat follows the rahmat lil alameen, wherever he travels. And we're here to show our love for the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and our highest respect, because Allah loves him, because the prophets, they love him, because the angels, they love him. And Allah and the angels continuously send salawats and darud sharif upon the Holy Prophet ﷺ, not once. Holy Quran is speaking And when Allah does something, it is from eternity, pre-eternity, to post-eternity. And the friends of Allah, they say, you cannot imitate Allah in whatever that you do, because He is a creator and we are a creature, except for one thing, and that is giving the salawat on the Holy Prophet ﷺ, giving the durood. This is not an alternative vision or concept or belief in Islam. This has been the backbone of Islam for 1400 years and even before. Because every prophet, from Adam alayhi salam to Nuh alayhi salam to Ibrahim alayhi salam, that through our holy traditions, spiritual traditions, they say there are 124,000 prophets that came. And every prophet was told of the coming of the prophet of the last days. Adam alayhi salam was informed of the coming of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. So was Nuh alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam. So was Musa alayhi salam. And definitely Isa alayhi salam foretold it in his books. The blessings that comes from being one member of the community, of the Ummah, and the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, it is not limited to Muslims. The Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ is anyone who was born from the time of the Prophet until Judgment Day. That includes Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, everyone belonging to that Ummah. Whether they believe or they don't believe, whether they accept the invitation of Islam or they don't accept, that is another story, but they belong to the Ummah. And we are blessed because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us to be in the Ummah of His chosen Prophet. It was an honor that even the prophets, they were willing to give up their prophethood just to become a regular member of the Ummah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, like you and me, because they understood. Every prophet was foretold the coming of the last one, of the Khatam al-Nabi. And the love and the respect, let alone creation, that Allah has for the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who can guess Allah's love for him? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Hadith Qudsi, Lawlaka, lawlaka. If it were not for you, I would not have created the universes. This is central to our belief because our faith rests on two conditions. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. But it does not end there. It continues with Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Alayhi salatu wassalam. And for 1400 years since the physical appearance of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, which he physically appeared here 1400 years ago. But Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam also said, I was a prophet when Adam alayhi salam was between water and clay. So, we cannot speak too much about the reality of the Prophet ﷺ because the foundation is not laid for some. And for some, we're putting them into a very dangerous position where they start denying. And they're saying, he's just a man. Of course he's a man. But just as marble is a stone and diamonds are stones, but they are completely different now. For 1400 years, the trouble has never been about La ilaha illallah. Because even the mushriks at that time, some way, somehow they say, yes, we believe in Allah, didn't they? But they say we also want to believe in the Banatullah, in the daughters of Allah, in the other ones, in the other idols. Yes, may Allah protect us from that. We will get into hidden idols a little bit later. But the problem has always been, the issue has always been about Muhammad Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam, from that time until now. And as Muslims, our faith is not complete if we only say La ilaha illallah. Because now, in order to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to know the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. In order to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to love the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Where are we getting this from? This is not an idea or a concept or a philosophy. This is ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayatul Karimah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, say to them, Ya Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, if they love Allah, they must love you and obey you for Allah to love them. So there is a condition now in reaching to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close to us. He is closer to us than our jugular vein. But at the same time, it is undeniable that there is a protocol in reaching to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a protocol where divine revelation is given to mankind. If Allah had wanted, He would not have sent a single prophet. If Allah had wanted, He would not have sent Rahmatul lil Alameen. He would have just given Quran to each and to every one of us, to our hearts. But He did not. He sent that Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. None of the Sahabis, after accepting Islam, would push the Prophet aside. None of them in that lifetime say, I know because Allah told me so, or Quran is saying this, because they were always looking at the Holy Prophet ﷺ and says, you are our Prophet, you are our guide. So Holy Prophet ﷺ came as a mercy to complete the religion of Islam that did not just begin 1400 years ago. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna dina indallahul Islam. The religion accepted with Allah, in Allah, is Islam. It is a religion that is from pre-eternity to post-eternity. And the Quran Karim came down to the heart of the Prophet ﷺ. It did not come down as a book. Jibreel alayhi salam did not come down with a book, opening it and saying to the Prophet, read. When the first revelation, Iqra, he said, read. It was not a book. It was read what is in our hearts, what was in his heart. Iqra. And read only with the name of Allah. Read with the name of Allah, the Allah that created you. So now, when we speak about knowledge, there is Zahir knowledge and there is Batin knowledge. There is external knowledge and there is internal knowledge. There is knowledge that is contained in the physical book, which can be altered, it can be changed, it can be destroyed, it can be gotten rid of. People try at any rate. Now, we are seeing there are different versions of Quran, translations of the Quran, of course. That's creeping up here and there. Same thing with the Hadith. We see different majlis in different alims in different countries sitting down and saying, well, this hadith, it doesn't fit to these modern times because it is against, say, animal rights, although it was Prophet ﷺ who brought animal rights to this world. One woman who did so much wrong because she gave some water to a dying cat from thirst, she was admitted to paradise. They say, there are other hadiths. They say this doesn't fit. They throw it out. Other hadiths, they say these hadiths, they are misogynistic. Doesn't fit to these times. We throw them out. These other hadiths, it doesn't conform to our political ideology or our social mores at this time. Let's throw it out. Physical knowledge. But Islam is revelation. And Islam, it is a living religion. Islam cannot be contained in a physical book. There is spiritual knowledge. And spiritual knowledge, it is passed from heart to heart. No one can patent it. No one can copyright it. And no one can destroy it. And the holders of the Zahir knowledge, they are important, of course. But it is always the batin that gives life to the body, not the Zahir. So, in this spiritual side of Islam, this is what we're referring to as tariqat, way, following those ones who were trained and taught by those ones who were trained and taught, and those ones who were trained and taught, reaching up through a direct lineage to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And just as everyone goes through grade school, some decide to drop out, most go through high school. Some decide to drop out, then they will go to college and postgraduate and higher. There is also, yes, there is a stratification in Islam. There is a stratification in spirituality. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, above every knower, there is a knower. We cannot compare our faith with the faith of those ones who lived 100 years ago, before the fitna of technology. We cannot compare ourselves to that faith. We cannot compare our faith to those ones who are living under Shariat and Khilafat. We cannot compare our faith to those ones who lived in the time of, say, Hassan al-Basri, or the time of the Sahabe Kiram. This is adab, this is manners, this is knowing where man is, knowing where you are circling, where you're making the, as the Mevlevis, they whirl, knowing where their orbit is, and they don't crush into each other. That is ma'rifat enough. But in these times of extreme fitna, we are led and taught to believe that we can know everything and interfere into everything and be experts of everything. No man in his right mind is going to say, just because he's interested in law and he happens to read the Constitution, that he's a lawyer. But we've come to the situation now when we see a person knowing a couple of ayats or knowing a couple of hadiths, and they're making takfir on each other and making fatwas. May Allah keep us away from ignorance. Holy Prophet ﷺ, he was asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is your favorite name? Because Prophet ﷺ had thousands of names. Not one. Hazrat Ibn Arabi collected over 1,000 names. In the Dalil Sharif, it was over 200 names. Whatever title, whatever praises you want to put on him, put. It is also a miracle in Islam that over 1,400 years, no matter how much The Muslims love the Prophet ﷺ and raise him to high stations. They never worship him. Never. He became Muhammad Rasulullah. He's always Muhammad Rasulullah. Never. He became an ilah. That is a miracle. But the jealous ones, they say, no. Why should you be respecting him so much? The jealous ones say, no. Why should you be making the inner sajda to him? Sajda, sujood is only for Allah. Prostration is only for Allah. Only Allah. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because wrong-minded people also saying, Shaitan did not make sajda to Adam alayhi salam because he was extremely strong in his tawhid. That he makes sajda only to Allah and not to his creation. And they start praising Shaitan and saying that he's even willing to give up from his faith and his love of Allah just so that he holds on to Tawhid properly. I don't know about that. 1400 years, we are Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat, alhamdulillah. And we are following the traditions of 1400 years strongly. But now, when Holy Prophet ﷺ was asked, which one, Ya Rasulullah, is your favorite name? He said, Abdullah. Abdullah. He is Habibullah. He is Sahibul Taj. He is Sahibul Qawba Qawsain. Whatever title that you have, like the poets of the subcontinent, sometimes because of the Ashki Rasul, it hits them so much and they get a little bit crazy. They said, other than Allah, you are the greatest. Allah is the greatest. But other than Allah, among the creation, you are. Of course, He is. And now it's come to the point where the name of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, yes, in our tradition, especially in the Osmanli Naqshbandi tradition, whenever the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned, we put our hand to our heart. Same reason why we stand up when the Salawat al-Sharif is given. This is respect. One time, it's not for me. We're standing up for the Prophet. One time, Shaykh Mawlana Nazim, our grand Shaykh, may Allah raise his station and grant him long life, he had to speak at a unity conference. And it's one of those conferences that actually calls for unity, calling people of different groups of Islam, saying, basically, let's stop all our fighting and sit together. When he entered, and the Murids, out of love, stood up, out of love. And there are other ones who are there. And they don't like tasawwuf so much. They don't understand. They're a little bit different that way, let's say. Don't like the Shaykh to be walking. He's a 70-year-old man coming up. Some they're standing up and they start to speak to each other. They say, why are they doing that? This is haram, this is this is that. Very simple. Again, our Shaykh is an awliya, he's not a scholar. So he gives an answer that fits to that. He says, my sons and my daughters, you are upset with me and them because they stood up when I entered. Let me tell you a story. One time, they were carrying the janazah of a dead Jew in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ stood up. He says, my sons and my daughters, don't you think I'm a little better than a dead Jew? He smiled and said, it's okay, as you like. This is the way of tariqat, as you like. as you like. But to stand up for the honor of the Prophet ﷺ, to put our hands there, they asked us so many times, why do you do that? We're saying this is in imitation of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Because whenever the name was mentioned, Nabi, Rasulullah ﷺ, their hearts would start to beat and shake because of that love. And they would have a seizure. It would start jumping and they have to hold on to their chest to calm it. It's not a story, this is real. This is the love that Uwais al-Qarani had. That because of his love of the Holy Prophet ﷺ in the Battle of Uhud, when the teeth of the Prophet ﷺ was made shaheed, and he heard the teeth of his beloved were lost, he took out all his teeth. He said, how can my beloved's mouth be hurt and I have the teeth in mine? Love makes you to do crazy things. In these today's context, they're going to say, he's a crazy man. Why is he this? Isn't this extreme? If you have love, you will do extreme things. 33 that he strung up together that made the tasbih. His love for the Prophet ﷺ was so much, was so great, that when the Prophet passed, ﷺ, Prophet gave, before he passed, he said, take this jubbah, give it to Ali and Umar, Hazrat Lari. Go to the land of Yemen. Find Uwais al-Qarani. Give this to him and tell him to pray for my nation, especially the nation living in the West. And that was a jubbah, the hirqa sharif that the Prophet ﷺ wore when he was having his nazar and he was sweating. His jubbah was then passed to Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Umar. And they traveled there. Hazrat Uwais al-Qarani has never met the Prophet ﷺ, not even once, physically. Once he traveled, but because he listened to his mother said, go, if you don't see the Prophet, come back, ﷺ. He went. He didn't take the bus, he didn't take the car like we did. He walked. Because he was a very humble, simple man who looks after camels. So many times for free. Society looked down on him. So when Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh, they traveled to Yemen and they saw where he was. And they asked, and they pointed to where he is. And they saw an old man under a tree that was sleeping. They approached him. And Uwais al-Qarani, Hazrat Dari said, Ya Ali, give me my amanat. Hazrat Ali was shocked. Hazrat Umar was shocked. They presented the hirqa sharif to him. He took it, he kissed it, put it on top of his head, and he went straight to sajda. And he prayed, and he prayed, and he prayed for the ummah. Yes, because Holy Prophet ﷺ, other than the love of Allah, he loves his ummah. His first words after he was born was, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, inni Rasulullah, ummati, ummati. His last words before he passed was ummati, ummati. His first words when he will be raised on Judgment Day is ummati, ummati. Who is ummati? You and me. Who are we? That he's loving us so much. He prayed, and Hazrat Umar, being Hazrat Umar, very strong and hot-blooded, saying, Ya Uwais, enough already. We're waiting such a long time. Uwais al-Qarni then stood up and says, Ya Umar, if you had been more patient, I would have been able to grant shafa'at to the entire ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, to save them from hellfire. I saved 2/3. Then he turned to Hazrat Umar and said, Ya Umar, Bismillah, how many times have you seen the Prophet? Hazrat Umar said, what do you mean? I see him every day. Then he turned to Hazrat Ali and said, Ya Ali, how many times have you seen the Prophet? Hazrat Ali then understood. He is not seeing with his eyes. He said, Ya Uwais, once. Then Uwais al-Qarni turned to Hazrat Umar and said, Ya Umar, the way that you see the Prophet is the way that Abu Jahl is seeing the Prophet. Physically with these. Then he said, Ya Ali, tell me, when did you see the Prophet ﷺ? Hazrat Ali then narrated, on the day that we conquered Mecca and we went to the Kaaba Sharif to destroy the idols, to take down the idols, and there was one that was huge inside the Kaaba. There was one that was so huge, you had difficulty to bring it down. I said to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, step on my shoulders. We can bring it down. He says, Ya Ali, you cannot carry the burden of my prophethood. You will be crushed. You climb on my shoulders. And the minute that Hazrat Ali started to climb to the shoulders of the Prophet ﷺ, and he saw, when he faced the Prophet, he saw. What did he see? He saw above his belly button the worlds, the paradises, up to Sidratul Muntaha, and from his head beyond, continuing. He could not even describe. And when he looked down from the belly button, from the navel of the Prophet ﷺ, the 7 earths and the hells and beyond. He looked to the right, he looked to the left. Now, what did he see? He saw with his spiritual eye the reality of the Prophet ﷺ. Then he saw what contained in the Prophet and what the Prophet ﷺ contains. He said that to Uwais al-Qarni. And Uwais al-Qarni said to Hazrat Ali, Karamallahu wajha, says, yes, Ali, you saw him once. I see him at every moment. His love was so great that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test his Habibullah on the day of judgment. He will create 40 Uwais al-Qarnis, identical. And he says to his beloved, he will say to his beloved, you gave your jubbah to him. Find which one is that one who loved you. Alhamdulillah. Prophet ﷺ, whose name is so precious to us that we put our hands to our heart. Now, in so many different reports we are seeing, the name has become so cheap. Recently, I read an article in a country, let's just say Saudi Arabia. That name has become synonymous to, for example, over here, when we say amigo, derogatory. They call anyone who sweeps the street, who picks up trash. They don't know his name. Person may not even be Muslim. And they can't be bothered to call him even brother these days. You know what they call him? Muhammad. What is it? They say, Muhammad, where are you? Come here. Astaghfirullah alazim wa atubu ilayh. May Allah forgive us. May Allah make us to be Abdullah. Just to be a simple servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is what we're aiming for. This is what our tariqat is teaching us. To be a simple servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be Abdullah just as his beloved was an Abdullah. And in our way, because we are concentrating on spirituality, it is not the zahir knowledge that we are concentrating on. In our way, the mashayikhs, the shuyukhs, they are concentrating on the enemies of man. Not America, it's not an enemy. Not China, not Russia, no. The enemy of man, first, our nafs. Then shaitan. Hawa and dunya. These are the four enemies that if we are concentrating on them and recognizing what is our hawa, what are the desires, what is the pull of this dunya that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said so many ayats in the Holy Quran, this world, it is just a game to you. It's just an illusion to you. Shaitan, which is an open enemy, and our nafs, that is the enemy inside of us. And in our way, we are concentrating on the nafs. And to understand that inside of the nafs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into every man and woman is the same, you and me, rich or poor, young or old. The nafs is there. And the nafs has characteristics that it inherits from shaitan. And now we are speaking beyond knowledge. Because shaitan had knowledge. Shaitan had knowledge that he was able to teach the angels what they did not know. But shaitan did not have knowledge of himself. Our Mashayikh is concentrating on this because this is the reason of our creation. We have been created to know Allah and to worship Allah. Nothing else. But in order to know Allah, in order to worship Allah, for us to worship Allah, we have to know Him first. How can you worship that which you do not know? But to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Holy Prophet ﷺ had said, he who knows himself knows his Lord. So it comes back again, full circle. So to know us, to know ourselves, the mashayikhs and the shuyukhs now concentrating, in order to know yourself, understand what is the characteristics that you inherit, that Allah has put, that is positive and negative. And the characteristics that we inherit from shaitan, anger, arrogance, stubbornness, and envy. And these four characteristics, it doesn't matter if you're young or you're old, you're rich or you're poor, you have knowledge or you don't have knowledge, it is in you. And unless you can get rid of these characteristics, even if you're worshiping 24 hours, if you cannot get rid of that jealousy and the arrogance that is inside of you, Jannat is forbidden to us. Who is saying this? Holy Prophet ﷺ. So now, the enemy within. This is what we're concentrating on. It may take some their whole lives to understand. Some, it may take a little shorter But like I said before, right in the beginning, I'm not giving a lecture. I'm not a scholar. What we're hoping to have here, it is a sohbat. It is an association. Because our tariqat, our way is founded on association, is based on association. Tariqat and as-sohbat, bil-hari min jamiyah. And our Pir, Shahi Naqshbandi, said that. And he said that because he says only prophets, they give advice. We are not prophets. We don't give advice. We give sohbat, an association. And goodness comes from association. And the association is the association of the Prophet ﷺ. And from the association of the Prophet ﷺ, those ones who were animals and had animal characteristics, who were burying their daughters and their children, they became Sahabis. May Allah forgive us and accept our tawbah and our worship. We are not claiming anything. We are looking, we're searching, and we're learning. If there is something there that is of benefit to you, understand that it is coming from Aisha, from the Prophet, ultimately from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you like it, take. If you don't like it, it's okay, leave it. I'll take it as you like. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.